What's good, everybody? Remember 17 here, and today we have ourselves a breakdown on the UFC 5 post-beta changes. What does that mean? This is how the game is going to come out with these changes after y'all's feedback after the beta. So these are all the gameplay changes listed here. They're going to continue to work on post-launch feedback, which is what they're supposed to do. They've done it in UFC 3, they did it in UFC 4, and they're going to continue to do that in UFC 5. So this is a step in the right direction. A lot of positive reception with regards to the changes to ranked, and now we're going to have more changes with gameplay, which is obviously the most important thing. The game can look pretty, everything can look good, but if it plays the exact same way and has the exact same problems as the last game, then what's the whole point, right? So block was being broke too easily. Blocking was being broken too easily. That's funny. Blocking was in the middle of tuning in the closed beta build. It was weaker compared to UFC 4, but has been returned to its original strength for launch. So this can pretty much mean that it's now as strong as the UFC 4 block, which is okay, which is good. Jabs are too good for block breaking. I've been saying this for a long time. The jab has been severely nerfed. We did three things with the jab. Nerf the stopping power from 40% to 30%. You need to hit people earlier in order to stop them with the jab. That's an intercepting strike. So for those unfamiliar with how stopping power works, those percentages are how early you need to hit people during the execution of the strike in order to stop them. Before, you could hit people up to 40% of the execution of their own attack and stop them. Now it's going to be 30%. So I'm interested to see how that change is going to work. And especially with, like, say, the jabs that aren't extended fully in range, you already can lose exchanges when a jab is, like, muffled. This can also help with the hit stuns. Nerf the speed of the advancing jab by a couple of frames. Okay, so hopefully this also applies to the double jab combination, because that's the one where if you want to see like an issue with regards to footwork in the game, it's the double jab going forward, because usually if you're going to throw and you're going to cover distance, something has to get sacrificed. In the game, you'll see a lot of people in UFC 4, they can throw the double jab and you can cover distance and keep the speed, and something has to go. They also nerfed the jab damage by 20%. Additionally, we nerfed the damage of the straight cross by 10%, which will further help to limit the jab to straight effectiveness, combo effectiveness at block breaking. Está bien. Now, my only concern is that this needs to apply to every single version. I think it should. I think they're smart enough to know that. So it can't just be the regular jab. It have to apply the snap jab. Cross also has to apply to like the looping cross or the Celtic cross. But this is a good change in the right direction. Knee and elbow combos are too strong. These have been heavily nerfed since the beta. The combos are slowed down, elbow to elbow, and more so ones that mix knee and elbow. I done gave them a list of all the combos. So as long as all that's slowed down, I'm with it. Furthermore, the built-in back lean evasion of the knees has been removed, and the rear knee itself will slow down a bit. So what that means is, you ever had it where y'all throw a hook and dude throws a knee? Your stamina gets drained to shit. You whiff the strike because his head is all the way back there, even though you probably timed that hook at the right point. That's good. That's good. That's a very good change, and a lot of us have been wanting this. It didn't happen as much in UFC 3. It happened way too much on UFC 4. Head movement consumes too much stamina. Fixed lunges were also made to consume less stamina. Very good. Excessive tracking of strikes. I'm going to be on y'all on this one. I'm going to go right into practice mode, and I'm going to go find some stuff. If I find out some stuff that's tracking where it's not supposed to, I'm going to be very annoyed. But I'm going to take y'all word for it. We fixed an issue that made strikes track more than they should in some circumstances. Oh, this is a big one. Ground and pound reversals are too easy. We made noticeable changes to how stamina behaves during ground and pound tracks. Reversals will now properly require a setup, such as the attacker throwing multiple punches and missing a few to concede the stamina advantage required for a big reversal. On the other side of this change, head movement from the submissive fighter will not consume as much stamina, which is good because, remember, when you guys have lower short-term stamina, you take more damage. So you can be moving your head, doing as good as you can, but then you get hit with the next following strike, and then it kind of defeats the point of you moving your head. Please note, however, that the ground and pound elbows are a high-risk, high-reward strike that can be reversed by head movement, even without a stamina lead from the defender. Now, remember with the elbows, right? These elbows are not elbows like holding the person in full guard, where you're controlling the head like the can opener and throwing multiple elbows like this. These are elbows where you're unpostured and the person is fully committing their body weight on these elbows. So that's kind of like the trade-off that can be reversed by head movement, even without a stamina lead. So if you try to frame the elbow properly, so you have to time the arc and then probably slip to the outside is probably ideal. What determines what? I hope it's by move level, like wrestling move levels and jiu-jitsu move levels, because I really don't like. I'm hoping it's all the jiu-jitsu guys, they have their reversals. Wrestling guys have their like reverse wrestling style reversals, and for regular guys, they just get up. They just escape. Too many knockdowns can happen. Fighter resilience and health events have been tuned, resulting in fewer instances of repeated knockdowns before knockout occurs. We will continue to tune this variable and others that are related related following post-launch feedback. Okay, because they have to consider cut resistance, doctor stoppages, health stats of fighters. So we're really not going to know how well this is. And of course, you have to try to finish the fight. You can't just keep letting the person back up and giving them a chance. But by then the doctor stoppages should probably come in. So this is where things are going to get interesting with everybody now having access. And we're going to be able to see how everybody's playing. And it's going to provide for better feedback. Doctor stoppages can happen without the injury looking severe enough. This is true. In the closed beta, Doctor Stoppages did trigger properly according to the amount of damage dealt, but the visuals might not have looked accurate. This is specific to swelling stoppages. The eyes might not have swelled shut, or the forehead bump might have not grown big enough. This has been fixed since the closed beta. So you could pretty much hold somebody in crucifix and just keep dinging on their head, but their head will look perfectly fine, like nothing happened. The doctor could come in if you got them down to that red portion of the marker, and it'll stop the fight, but it doesn't look like anything to stop the fight. This one, they nerfed the crap out of Swiss Liebacks. The straight to lead overhead combos too fast. Both the regular and slipping versions are fixed for launch. They have been slowed down, and the version that played an advancing overhand instead of a stationary one is now playing the stationary one. Rip Swiss. New uppercut animations look awkward. Address the uppercut animation, so they probably cleaned up some tuning there. Fighters get stuck while entering some submissions. They fixed that. Releasing the struggle from the heel hook can prevent transitioning from happening for a while. Okay. Fixed since the close beta build. That's good, because that one was annoying. Ref interruptions for doctor checks happening when the fighters are in the middle of action. There are edge cases of fighters advancing and striking right after the ref calls for a pause. But we have fixed the cases where fighters are already close and striking. The ref won't interrupt in those scenarios. So when the action is going, the ref won't interrupt. So if you're like already in the middle of the barn burner, the ref isn't going to go in the middle and go, hey, stop fighting right now, right? There needs to be some type of slowdown in the action for the ref to really take a look at you and go, hey, we need to bring in the doctor. Stamina is too abundant, especially in the stand-up. With the buffs to the defense, it is easier to make opponents miss and drain more of the stamina. The increased defensive pace of the fight is also likely to open opportunities from body shots or drain stamina as well. Stamina is one of the trickiest elements to tune because there are direct and indirect factors that can add up and cause a snowball effect. This is true. We are treating stamina tuning as a high priority for our future updates, and we know how important it is for the match to have an authentic flow. We will continue to monitor community feedback on how stamina cost feels during matches. So they buff defense, they buff head movement, they buff the lunges. So this is also going to play into how well you're using these tools to make your opponent gas. So if we start seeing, if you guys are having fights where you're making guys lunge heavy as hell on like big strikes on round one, you're slipping, you're dodging, you're doing minor steps and all this little stuff, and they're coming back into the second round with the same stamina as you, that's a problem. Send that over to me and I'll send it to them, because that's not how it should be. It's one thing to block and just take a bunch of shots, but that's not really going to be enough to gas somebody out. We just saw like Sodik Yusuf versus Edson Barboza, right? Sodik Yusuf against Barboza, went crazy first round. Second round slowed down a bit, but rounds 3, 4, and 5, he was still throwing at a pretty high output. Like him and Barboza was still throwing at a very high output. So there's always those little caveats in between. And Barboza was landing a lot of good counters there as well, but he didn't get he landed God knows how many body shot counters, and it slowed down Yusuf trying to pressure him as much and made Yusuf go on the retreat. So that's a big thing, right? The stamina is going to come down. It's always meshed with the ability of the player to use the skills or whatever's enabled in the game to mitigate their opponent. So we'll see. I mean, they should still have tuned the stamina. Like, they still should have tuned it because it was way too forgiving. This presentation, GD arcade camera. Camera issues that made more motion jittery. Okay. Wrong camera during ground fighting. Lord, how I hated this. Servo cases of certain grappling moves. Instances which are too Okay, so some of them are still not fixed, which are targeted to be fixed in post-launch patches. All right. Lack of referee interactions. Okay, basically when the ref is jumping in, because a lot of the TKOs, a big complaint in the beta was like there were some TKOs that looked exactly like UFC 4, where the ref is just pretty much watching you just mash on the dude's head and there's no interaction. So they are probably having the refs, like jump in, slide in, push the fighter off, and having that happen more frequently because that's what usually tends to happen when the refs interfere in the fight. Fighters may slide upon being struck, legs can appear too wobbly when struck, arms can flail too much on big hit reactions, and fighter reactions can look unnatural during the simultaneous hits. Okay? So that's the gist of all the changes. Of course, you can follow them on Twitter. Yeah, that's pretty much a good breakdown of everything. I mean, I'm mainly happy for like a lot of the jab stuff. We still got to see some grappling changes. So I want to see by launch how it's going to be because I'm going to be in their ear about a lot of the grappling changes. They're already aware of a few of them. I don't know if it's going to be making certain stuff by launch. I hope so. If not, it's going to be a big reminder from myself and everybody else to tell them, hey, we need to have this portion of the grappling matter a lot more for guys like I was talking earlier with Khabib Nurmagomedov versus, Conor McGregor, and you're setting up the takedown perfectly, but it just takes low block to block everything, right? So let's just hope that that's not going to be the case, and we're gonna have a much smoother game when it comes to gameplay. So, Romero 17, I appreciate all of you. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the video. I'm out of here.